Okay, folks, I'm doing another video. And today I want to talk about in the narcissistic family structure, the smear campaign that often is geared towards you from either parent, either your mother or your father. And this smear campaign is done when you're a child, and it's also done when you are an adult. Okay. And so I want to get right to it. This has been done to me personally. And so, when I do these videos, I have a tendency to go and talk about my life experiences for two reasons. One, because it's kind of helping me release some of the, I guess you could say, the negative energy, and to, just get it out there, and also to help other people like me who have been through this, and they don't even recognize or know what's really happening. I have to say, like in the past couple years, I've noticed, you know, uh, especially through social media and going online, there's more talk about narcissism. And when I normally see it, them talking about narcissism, they usually are talking about it as the individual. But there's so many different levels, and there's so many different spectrums within the narcissism and the narcissistic type of situation persons that it's so deep. It's such a deep subject, and so you can imagine it gets even more deep when you're talking about the narcissistic family structure. Because what I've noticed, and this is just my personal opinion, and from what I see, the narcissistic family structure is it's very more common than and I just noticed that it's more prevalent in families who have a tendency to be very religious, i.e. Christian, they're Christian families, or they're brought up Muslim, or they were brought up Jewish. They were brought in a strict religious environment. Usually those families are the ones who usually have this problem. Those are the ones that I usually see. Many of them usually see. And so when I started, guess you could say, doing my own self as a case study and trying to figure out who I am as a person, I went through so many different things, and I just was like not getting why this stuff was happening to me. So when I started going to counseling for myself and started working on myself, and that happened about 3 years ago when I first started delving into this world of narcissism, so to speak. It completely blew my head off. It was a shock. So, it was there, and I knew something was wrong, but I never knew how deep and dark it really could become for a person, especially if you're the scapegoat. Okay. And I'm the scapegoat of the family. So, as being the scapegoat, you're the truth teller. You're the person who wants to get to the bottom of things and try to find solutions to what's going on, where everybody else is just ignoring it or doing things such as, going about their life as as if nothing ever happened. So, because I've had so many instances where, in my life where, I've had so many relationships kind of severed, and I didn't even know why they were being severed. I started delving more and more into, what makes a person become I guess you could say, what makes the person become the scapegoat. And so one of the major things is that smear campaign. Okay. The smear campaign is a big thing because it's used by the abuser to spread lies and gossip and to make you out to be, to not be believed about the behavior that's going on, or the family secrets. That's what's really going on. And so, and it's very, in many ways, it can be very covert. It's a very covert technique, the smear campaign. And this doesn't just happen with, family members. It usually happens with, with a spouse or significant other as well, where, that spouse, or significant other can start a smear campaign because they may be actually being abusive in the relationship, and they're trying to cover it up. And so, I want to put that out there too. I went through a marriage like that. That's why, and you just keep attracting these type of people, and you keep attracting these people because you don't even know what's going on. So, I just want to shed some light on that. So getting right into it, the smear campaign, smear campaign is just, it can really be very, 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 very bad. I'm giving my personal experience here. My mother is more of the person that does the smear campaign. Now, both of my parents are narcissists, and, they offset each other at certain times. Sometimes they interact, they switch their roles depending on the situation. When it comes to, especially when it came to me, and they do it to my other siblings as well. But they, the whole purpose of the smear campaign is to really discredit the scapegoat of the family. It's to discredit that person, make the scapegoat out to be a liar, so that the truth cannot be uncovered. And I'm gonna give you, as of late, an example my mother has done. She had, because I used to live with her and I used to stay with my family after my divorce. I just went through, a very tumultuous divorce, and it was taking me, quite some time, because I had went, I was going through my own personal issues. I went through depression. I went through a whole myriad of things that were contributing to me not really standing up for myself and having such low self-esteem about myself. I really, really went through that, and it was really bad. And so, throughout this time that I'm staying with them, me and my mother, my parents had decided, that they were going to send my children to private school. Okay. And so, by this time, my oldest daughter, she was about 13 at this time. And so, no, this is 12. She was in 6th grade. And I was going through a lot of different things. And to make a long story short, my mother, she started sharing some things, some personal things about my life to my daughter's teacher. Okay. In turn, my daughter started receiving a whole different type of treatment by her teacher. Now, mind you, it was already a situation where, we're a Black family. And so, we also had, you add into that, they were in this, this private school that they were in. There were not as many Black students there. It was very much a white school. Okay. So, she started talking, or I don't know what she was doing, started saying stuff to the teacher. Okay. And, it just ended up being a very uncomfortable situation for my daughter. So it started causing a lot of problems and friction between me and my daughter. And I wasn't understanding where the venom from my daughter, her being disrespectful to me, was really coming from. Well, now I realize it was, it was my mother. My mother was going and telling the teacher very personal, intimate details of my life, okay, to the teacher. And then that made, started to cause problems for my daughter because the teacher started mistreating my daughter. She would call the office or the front office at the school, and then they would be calling me at work every 5 minutes to come. You need to come get your daughter. I had to have a conference for my daughter because now my daughter's being disrespectful. And I'm just like, where is this behavior like seemingly out of nowhere coming from my daughter? Because my daughter was not the type of person to really, just pop off at the mouth and do those sorts of things. She wasn't a bad kid, and she's not a bad kid. She's not. And so I'm like, where is all of this stuff coming from? She's the only black girl in the class. My mother knows this. And, I get a call from work. And so I call the teacher back. Okay. And this went on for a couple months. And so I call the teacher back. And then the teacher tells me basically my life story. She tells my life story to me and what's going on in the household between me and my family, and proceeds to kind of like tell me about myself and what I need to be doing. Needless to say, I was so pissed. I was so fucking pissed. I was so pissed, and I was just like, what is she doing? That's one instance. Then, so, my mother has this way of, taking a smear campaign. When she gets mad at me, when she would get mad at me and she didn't like something that I did or said or how it made her look in her own eyes, she would start the smear campaign against me. And that's how she would punish me. And then she in turn kind of use my daughter, use the teacher who's a flying monkey, if you understand what that, the flying monkey means, and the flying monkey to actually come back around and tell me about myself and the situation. And that's what happens. And to me, my daughter was the one, and when it was all said and done, she was the one who was really suffering through this because it was causing a lot of stuff. Now, this woman, I'm a single mom at this point. Okay. I was at work from 9:00 in the morning till 6:00 at night. So it was my mom had made it her responsibility, since they decided to send the kids to school. That meant you had to go pick them up, Mom. You have to go get them. They decided to tell me that they were going to pay for everything. So I need you to do just that. She was very bitter about whatever it was that she was being bitter about, and she would use that situation to try to come punish me. And she would do this with almost every relationship that I had. When I would reach out to other people to try to get, some help, because she would complain about, oh, I'm doing all this, and this is what I'm doing to go help you out and your children. And, this was the rhetoric and the talk, and this is constant. This is like an everyday thing. And when I'm already being a single mother and struggling, trying to make it, I didn't need my mother and her aggravation. Now, my parents are well-to-do. They were very well-to-do. So my mother was not working a job at this time. So she, you volunteered to take care of, they agreed that they were going to volunteer to take care of my kids. But as my dad, as you well know, if you listen to any of my my videos, is my dad, he's not concerned about it. He's the enabler of the group, and he enables her to do this. So he knows that she goes and says these things and does these things and causes all this kind of friction. But, he kind of keeps himself out of it because he doesn't want to deal with her. So, the smear campaign can really mess things up for you. And one of the things that I noticed with, my mother doing what she did, is she would pretend, it's kind of like how she would come at people, and how it's covert is that it's kind of wrapped up in like fake concern. So she'll come off and tell the person something as, oh, well, I'm praying for my daughter and I'm doing this for you, doing this for her. And she's really having a hard time. But her intention behind it was never to have a positive outcome or to get that person. She would use that against me so everybody would know my business. And then I'm being looked at or being targeted. And in this case, my daughter ended up being targeted. So I just want to put that out there too. You got to be very careful when you're the scapegoat. Be very, very careful of you're that victim and you're the one who's being victimized, you got to be very, very careful of being in this situation where you have the narcissist doing this to you. And for me, it was just hell because I'm living with the narcissist. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm living with my parents. So I had to get the fuck up out of there. And by any means necessary, I had to get the fuck up out of there. And I did. But it was just, you got to be very, very careful about that because they use certain covert tactics to do that, and it ends up causing more and more problems. And for me, it was very disheartening and it was very painful because now you're using your granddaughter, my daughter, against me. That's what she would do. She would use against me. She would go back and tell the my daughter's father all of the my two kids' father. She would tell him information, and then now me and him are arguing. And I started to realize after years and years and years, she was the common denominator in all of these relationships. So it was her. So be very careful. Be very careful, and read up on narcissism. Get really, really deep and learn what it is, a definition of it, what the tactics are, what your position is as the victim, if you are the victim, and be very, very aware because some of these narcissistic people, they know that they're narcissists, and that's how they control the situation. They control the situation and the flow of information. That's what they do. Make sure you document everything. Everything. I had to do this with the husband. I documented everything that happened. Everything that happened, and I put it in. I mean, when I say document, I'll actually legally documented it. Okay. So that if anybody comes back later on and says, oh, well, she did this, that happened, they can see a paper trail on his ass. Okay. And that's another reason why I am, so I like to say, no contact. This is why I'm no contact with her. And so, I just want to encourage other people out there, really, 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 really look into this. Don't fight the smearing campaign. Don't try to justify it, because when you try to go back and justify, what's going on, and you and the person who's doing the smear campaign and the flying monkeys, they end up ganging up on you, and that usually ends up being your father, your sisters, your brothers, even if y'all, that's how it happens. And it's a vicious cycle. And usually the scapegoat has it the worst because they don't want to be in, there's nothing that can really be resolved when you're dealing with people who don't want to admit or don't want their shit to be found out. So, just beware. And, lastly, I do want to say this too. There is a checklist online that I took that it's called the Narcissistic Family Checklist. And you can basically go through the checklist to find out, they actually list attributes so you can find out what role that your parents are playing or the narcissist is playing. And it's actually from the victim's point of view, not the narcissist or from the it's from the victim's point of view. It's not from the therapist's point of view and situations like that. It's very kind of basic in that that it's being done by someone that has actually been victimized by this abuse. So what I will do is that I will leave the link to that list and some of the videos of some videos that I've been looking at in the description box, and you can kind of look through there and kind of see what it is that I'm talking about, so that you can better understand yourself, because it can get so bad. I allowed it to get so bad to the point where I knew what she was doing, and I still tried to fight her. I still tried to try to get her to see. You cannot get these people to see What, you know, 9 times out of 10, you are not going to be able to get these people to see. And especially if they're like my parents, who are very, very deep rooted in Christianity. And you know, you'll hear the Bible is my is my counselor. You know, that's what my dad would always say. The Bible's my counselor. I don't need to go to counseling. So you're always wrong as a scapegoat. You're always wrong. And so people from the outside, they don't understand the covert tactics that are being taken place because of the fact that, oh, well, these are your parents. You're a Christian. You're supposed to honor and respect them, but they're not garnering honor and respect when they're doing these very things. And so what I like to do is, what I like to do is just stay to myself. And one of the things that has really helped me through this was going through, there's a particular author out there, and her name is Gail Meyers. And she had a narcissistic parents, specifically a narcissistic mother who was a Christian like mine. And so I really liked the way that she came with the information, because it really helped me to understand some of these tactics and the whole spectrum and the whole deep rootedness that this has, and how it's so dangerous and damaging. It can literally damage your whole entire life. Because while your parents are on a smear campaign to try to make you look bad just because she's mad at you, or he's mad at you, or doesn't want to deal with it, in the meantime, you're complaining about, you know, they're complaining about your behavior, but what ends up happening is you end up being the one that has nobody to go to, that really believes you. No one really truly understands you. And in my case, I basically had to cut everybody off. I don't talk to them. I don't deal with them. I won't even email them. I made the decision. I'm no contact. You know, because they're not going to see. And the more that I get in these back and forth conversations with them, or this back and forth where I feel like, okay, I'm justified, I have a right to say or whatever like that. And I do, but I already know that it's falling on deaf ears. So I just leave it alone. So I just want to, you know, encourage those out there who are battling, you know, and dealing with, you know, narcissistic parents and their adults, you know, and, you know, I also want to, you know, give the shout out to, the women that have a tendency to deal with this too. I mean, sons do deal with it, but there are many women that deal with this issue. And I just want to, you know, encourage you to, you know, stay strong. You got to make a decision about whether or not you want to go no contact, low contact, or, you know, minimal contact or whatever. And as most therapists will tell you, and most psychiatrists will tell you, you know, the best thing for you to do is to just, you know, go no contact, not to have any contact at all, because you expound a lot of your energy trying to fix it. And that's what I've been doing for years. I've given my mother the benefit of doubt. I've always tried to love her and care for her, but I do love them, but I will not go down with the ship with them in this stuff, because this is what she's going to do. This is what she's going to do. And she tried to turn my children against me. So I'll talk about that in another video. So, thank you for listening to what it is I got to say. As I said, I'll leave everything in the description box, and I'll see you in the next video.